job. I hate this goddamn job and I don't need it.
You two had better be calmed down or we're breaking out the ball gags.
You're listening to the fucking Suns and Shadows podcast on this network, so fucking subscribe or die. Fist bump.
My name is John Crichton, an astronaut, a radiation wavehead, and I got shot through a wormhole. I'm lost in some distant part of the universe on a ship, a living ship, full of strange alien life forms. Help me. Listen, please. Is there anybody out there who can hear me? I'm being hunted by an insane military commander doing everything I can. I'm just looking for a way home.
Welcome back, everybody, to another round of the Suns and Shadows podcast. I am Jeff, as always, joined by Kevin. This time we're celebrating an anniversary for our show. We're talking Farscape. It's been 25 years once it hits March 19th, because in March 19th of 1999, Farscape premiered in America on the Sci-Fi Channel. And I watched this back when it first aired, but I know Kevin didn't. And I'm going to hit up Kevin first. Kevin, on our rewatch, we just watched the first 11 episodes because we're breaking this up this month. But what did you think so far of the first 11?
Oh, golly, I was really impressed. I didn't think I was going to care for it as much because, you know me, I'm a horror guy, mostly horror. Sci-fi, not as much.
That's my end.
Yeah. It's not bad. I'm not like a futuristic sci-fi kind of guy. I really want to see things get dismembered for the most part.
Right.
Except for classic Star Trek, Star Wars, and Star Trek The Next Generation. Yeah, some DS9. I like old classic Star Trek, and I think that's why I don't like anything else at sci-fi. Is like I'm totally persnickety. I like Star Trek and Star Wars. It's mainstream, I know. But this, I don't know if I would have given this a chance in 99. I don't know.
Yeah, some people did. A lot of people didn't know about it until like years later or after the fact, or the second season, the third season. You know, people are still discovering this show even today, because there was a brand new Blu-ray box set that just came out a couple of months ago. And it's also available on multiple streaming platforms. Like you could watch this for free on YouTube. You could watch this on Pluto channel. There's a wide variety of places you can actually get access to watch this show. And I think that's also a good thing for an older show like this. And it's been updated enough for Blu-ray transfers, so it looks pretty decent still, especially for visual effects that were from that year. So initially it kind of started in about 98 internationally and in Canada, but America came out in 99. So we played a little catch up in 99. But when season 2 hit, we were all on board with the same schedule with everybody else.
Now, is this Sci-Fi Channel in other countries, or did Sci-Fi Channel just buy this to play?
Sci-Fi Channel is largely in America, but they had relationships with Space, the Imagination Station, which is Canadian, and then there's Sky in England. But I'm sure all of those negotiated the rights deals separately, but they all had a loose affiliation to where, like, I might be corrected by our UK friends, but I thought like they had a version of Sci-Fi Channel there. Not sure how well that worked out, or if this was on their Sky network when it was there. But at least between Space in Canada and Sci-Fi Channel here, they frequently played the same shows that they did. So I don't know if they shared content or what, but America was the big boy with the big license deal that would pay to actually continue production.
Ah, that's how that went. Okay. And what season does that happen? Or do I need to guess? Like, because Sci-Fi changes everything when they own something. I remember that from Mystery Science Theater.
Sci-Fi Channel didn't change anything with this show.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
If they did, it was very minimal. The creatives largely were able to do what they wanted to do until about season 4, and we'll end up determining how we cover Farscape going forward. We're just covering Farscape Season 1 for this month, but ultimately, season 4 ended on a pretty bad cliffhanger, and it was canceled. And so then we got a mini series after the fact, the Peacekeeper Wars, which would ultimately resolve the storylines from season 4, because when you break down the miniseries, I'm just going to quickly go over this. When you break down the miniseries in like 15-minute chunks, it almost feels like every 15 minutes is something that they would do in the span of a 45-minute episode. So you'd have like this 3-4 hour miniseries, but when you break it down by 15-minute sections, there's enough, because it feels like bullet points for what a season would be. And ultimately, they would have spread that out over the course of the season instead of condensing it and cramming it into a mini series that wrapped everything up. And so that's ultimately how it ended up getting resolved. But a lot of the production, the Henson Studios and everybody involved, they got the funding. Ultimately ended up airing on Sci-Fi Channel because they paid the license fee for it. But there's a big hoopla about what happened with season 4, because initially it was renewed for season 4 and 5. And so season 4 was constructed as part 1 of part 2. Season 4 storylines were going to be paid off in season 5 storylines. So when people see the mini series, they're like, well, season 4 did this and they never talked about that again. Yeah, because they lost a whole fucking season. That's what happened. It's just there's a big behind the scenes brouhaha about, because initially it was approved for season 5 and everybody was planning on it. They wrote the scripts. They specifically planned to go into season 5 to resolve it. It's basically a 2-season story arc, because when we get to seasons 2 and 3, that's like a 2-season arc as well. But there's things that carry through, and that's going to be one of the benefits of this first season. Is this is kind of like a primer for where the story and the whole universe is going to go after this, because this gets you nice familiar with all the characters, all the crew, all the cast, all the storylines. They're even sprinkling things in now. There's even subtle references to, or not so subtle references to, things that might be happening in the future. And as somebody who has seen this whole show at least 10 times, I can tell you for a fact, like, there's little sprinkles in about every episode building up to where the show is going to go.
Huh. I don't know. I feel silly again, for this is one of those things that I like, and I wish I would have seen and have seen several times in the last 25 years. The best I could remember is having seen a commercial of it with my old roommate, and both was going, that looks kind of cool.
Yeah.
And just never got around to it because we were always so busy, and then of course didn't have TV for a few years.
Oh yeah, I could definitely see that. I mean, Sci-Fi Channel was still a young cable channel that was not in too many homes, but this was one of the highest rated shows it had for a little while until they ended up getting Stargate on.
Oh.
And that's from season 6 onwards for Stargate. And then they continue basically the whole franchise, like Atlantis, Stargate Universe, and yada yada.
Yeah, this was a weird time for TV. Like, I remember a shift in attitude from almost like a teeny bop to the Attitude Era, for lack of a better term. So
yeah.
I could see the shift in content tone.
Yeah, we were all growing up a little bit.
Yes. And I don't know if Sci-Fi was really on board with that at the time. I don't know.
Well, later they would put wrestling on the channel, so what does that tell
you? Did they really?
Yep, eventually they canceled a lot of these wonderful shows, and they put ECW or WWECW on there. And this is where you could really get me going as a wrestling fan, because I'm a big time wrestling guy. But they put that on there. They put on reality shows that were stupid as shit. And they ended up trying to go as low budget as possible with their original scripted programming. Some of it was actually pretty decent. Some of it wasn't. And it was just unfortunate what ended up happening to pretty much all of them, in lieu of like, hey, let's go cheaper to something that'll pull ratings. And they had like Ghost Beaters Live. They had like, not Ghost Beaters Live, but like Ghost Hunters Live.
Yes.
They would do like crossing over with John Edward, which, putting psychics on there, things like that. Just these horrible ideas. And it's like, why are you getting of course it's going to pull in ratings because it's cheap and shit. I mean, when you're paying $10 for something and you get in like 100,000 views, sure, that's great. But is it really what people want to see? I mean, you can give everybody a variety, but fuck, man. When you got shows like Farscape, First Wave, Lex, all airing at the same damn time sometimes it was on the same night. But when you got that kind of programming going on, that is something for everybody. Then you would do Secret Adventures of Jules Verne. Then you would do, The Chronicle. I mean, I know I'm getting into the weeds with some of these shows, but like these are some of these Sci-Fi Channel shows that did something a little different. Even Invisible Man became a TV show for a season or two. And that was pretty damn good too. And they canceled that thing quicker than anything. It's wild. It's unfortunate, but it was a miracle we got even 4 seasons for Farscape.
The cowards should have brought back Werewolf.
Ooh, don't give him ideas now, Kevin. Don't give him ideas now.
No, man, Fox owns that shit. Oh, goodness, that's going to be a Disney princess then. That'll be coming out.
Oh, damn.
Are you saying what I think you're saying?
I'm not saying anything.
So, the last time I think we really talked about this, I had just finished episode 2 and had started episode 3. And you'd asked me what I thought, and I said it was really good. I liked it. It was smart. They went with a classic trope, and then they changed it and said, well, what if it was our fault? And that's with John killing the bug, and that setting off all the bugs attacking everybody. And they kind of owned up to that, and that kind of took me by surprise. And I said, you know what? You don't see that a lot in shows where it's like, here's the trope, but we're going to change it a bit. Like maybe it's our fault. And you said that was one of the weaker episodes that people look down on. And it's like, but it was so smart and good.
Yeah, I don't mind the episode myself, but it's widely IET is the episode we're talking about, everybody. So anybody familiar with this show and you're just following along, enjoying our conversation here, it's the second episode, IET. And, the alarm's going off on Moya. They got to put her in the mud on a planet. Then they got to go looking for salt.
Right. It's just salt.
But there's good moments in the episode, and it gives you an impression on like limitations for Moya and some of the other characters. It's just when you're doing the ET alien first contact angle, it's like, oh God, come on. Some of that is a bit unbearable.
Yeah.
Some of the acting and some of the idea. I mean, the ideas are fine, but like the show had clearly not found its footing quite yet in the early episodes, and not every show hits a grand slam straight off. Yeah, I know, sports ball talk, but not every show gets rolling that quickly. The first episode's great. The second episode's kind of like it's okay, I guess. And then after that, you kind of get into a little bit of a rhythm, and it keeps building and building until you get to about episode 6 and 7 when it really gets going.
Yeah. And in that regard, and I'm glad we didn't do it for these 11, doing a 6-pack challenge. It would be really hard to choose which episodes fit like the whole season or tell the story of the season, because even this, like, every episode mentions the previous episode or 2 episodes prior. Right. And so it all feels really consistent and fluid.
Yeah, this is the kind of show that rewards you for your investment. Yes, it's a bit serialized. It's not so episodic like Star Trek, where you could just kind of jump in.
Yeah.
But you can jump in with this show. It reminds you enough and references things enough to, they're not like picking this minute detail from like 20 episodes earlier of, hey, do you remember when Rigel stole that one thing? Yeah, that's going to be in play 20 episodes later. No, they just remember when Rigel stole something and we had to beat his ass. That's basically kind of the comments. It's, hey, remember when they did this or when they did that. And it's kind of educating to the audience because we're following Crichton. He's basically our audience. He's our eyes and ears into this world. And so we're basically right with him. And one of the endearing parts about that is he's always asking questions. He's always very interested in like, hey, what does this mean? What does that do? What's this do, Hickey? But then he also has enough self-awareness and quirkiness to him that he starts dropping pop culture references.
Dagobah, Yoda. He trains warriors.
Yep. And then later on, he talks about like Dirty Harry being on his, or no, The Good, Bad, the Ugly being on a poster on his wall. He also mentions Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
Oh, yeah, I think I've seen this one. Mel Gibson, Tina Turner, Cage Match. What? No, don't worry, nobody saw the third one anyway.
And which there is a cast member who was in a Mad Max movie, Virginia Hay, Zan.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
I believe that was the Road Warrior, though.
Oh, I haven't seen any of them.
But
I do remember her from James Bond.
Okay, there you go.
She was stellar as
Zan?
a character. Really interesting. Yeah. And I think that's where this show was even better than Star Trek, because of course it's an ensemble cast, and
Yes,
this is
it
as
is.
well. But these characters are a bit richer. And I know people are going to get pissed off when I say this. I enjoyed this more than Firefly. I'm not going to say it's better than Firefly. I enjoyed this more than Firefly. It's written more consistently, and the characters are written with a little bit more depth and dimension to them. Even Rigel, he's a puppet, and you could feel his emotions and stuff like that when he's terrified of the ghost of the captain that tortured him.
Durka.
Like it. Yeah, it's all in his head, and you're feeling the emotion that's going through this like toad puppet, and it's amazing. Star Trek didn't really have that so early on. I don't.
No, and they never really did.
There wasn't the emotional.
Yeah, they never really did get around to that. The best they ever got was like Lieutenant Commander Data, and he's supposed to be a robot, but of course he's actually being played by a human being trying to mimic being a robot. So at least with Rigel, you basically have the voice actor, and then you have to match it up with the puppetry by itself. And then so you have to have a detailed puppet. You have to have people who know how to handle the puppet. Then you got to be able to know how to like make it work within the context of the story and the dialogue, or even action, as it so sometimes comes to. And they were very smart. They did CGI Rigel very minimally, and that's good because you largely focus on the practical. And I really appreciate how they just did that here and there, and they'll do that a few more times throughout the rest of the show. But Rigel and some of the other puppetry, like Pilot, are crazy details, amazingly looking. And that is also another drawback to why some people don't get into this show, is they take one look at Rigel and they're like, how can I take a show that's got a Muppet as a main character? And it's like, some people just can't get past the puppets. And it's like, that's too bad. That's going to be your loss. And that's just my opinion. But you mentioned Farscape and Firefly, and I'm like, I'm Team Farscape all the way. Firefly is not as good as this.
No, it's not. And what really made me start to think that was Inara versus Zan. Zan is a much deeper written character as a priestess and nymphomaniac
and savage.
and Savage. She's cool. She's really cool because she has these different evolutions and then de-evolution and then trying to correct herself again. And she's just really cool. And you think she's the most decent person there, but then she's all about cutting off Pilot's arm.
Please, Pilot.
It was so
We
fucked
just want an
up.
arm for a crystal that doesn't even
And they tell you-
work.
Yeah, it was malware. Like they got suckered for malware. That was fantastic.
That episode is total body horror. I was wondering what you were going to be saying about that one, but I know you're talking about like Zan and Rigel as characters right now. So,
oh god, I love the relationship between those two because Rigel is not attracted to her at all. In fact, he's like disgusted by seeing her nudity all the time,
or her flirting with him and playing with his eyebrows. Total Ferengi move.
Yeah. Yes.
You give good
and the shaking on his face. They did such a wonderful job. And then the makeup, of course, is legendary. The whole team went on to produce and judge and score the show Face Off, which again is one of those reality shows that Sci-Fi put out because it costs less, but this was a good show that found new artists and helped create new artists in this industry, and that's a great big win for everybody.
Oh yeah, and also being like shot in Australia, they had access to the talent pool over there, so they had cast, crew. Like you had some stage actors from Australia finally getting put on a widespread scale show, and it's like, hey, all right, some of these people are going to get some attention now. Later, we're going to see Wayne Pygram, Anthony Simcoe as Dargo in this one. And Anthony Simcoe's been in a few other shows. He was in Hercules. I believe he was in one episode of Xena. And he was also in Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World, which was a syndicated show that ran 3 seasons for 66 episodes. But a lot of these that were shot over in Australia/New Zealand, if something was shot over there for America, chances are you will have seen at least a couple of these actors in role.
They all strike me as the type that could be Shakespearean.
Some of them are.
Like there are no bad actors in here at all. And that I compare to Star Trek because those were all Shakespearean actors to a point. Yeah. Fucking Peace Dew and Riker used to sit there and complain. Remember when we used to do Macbeth? This, like, for what I was afraid of was going to turn me off, greatly turned me on, and that was the puppetry. It was the makeup. It was the detail to it. It was the God. What's the best way to put it? You were talking about matching the ADR with the mouth. Knowing how that's done, and then seeing it being done so well in 1999 is amazing. Like it looks just like watching Earth to Ned, which was just produced a few years ago.
Yeah, you mentioned that, and I didn't know. I'm not aware of that.
It's on Disney Plus. It got 2 seasons, I think. Grant Pachoco was one of the puppeteers in it. Yeah,
I wonder what Grant would think of this show.
I don't know. I wanted to ping him and ask him if it was the same designers that worked on that show, because it looks very similar between Ned and Pilot. Like it looks like a team of Hydra people underneath Pilot and Ned. Like there's like 6 people operating all the different arms, the head, the torso. It's a beautiful cacophony of motion, like that's choreographed. It really is choreographed. It's not people just randomly making motions and stuff. Like it's a fluid motion of a team.
Yeah, and having seen some of the behind the scenes footage for years, it is a highly orchestrated team working all of these puppetries, especially like Pilot. Anything that's bigger than Rigel, you could already assume it's more than just as many as you can count on your hand that are probably working that puppet. And they all have to work together in a tight space and be able to work together
Yeah, and the camera angles that they use are really good. I mean, you talked about the CG being used minimally, and I think what they did there to help reduce the use of it is when you see him hovering or walking, they did it in the same way that they made the
Yep.
Muppets move in the late 70s, early 80s, and you're like, "Oh gosh, that looks so much better than CG." So much better. And then the CG that they did have was better than Deep Rising. Much better
Okay, I'll
than
give you
Deep
that
Rising.
one.
And this was television.
Well, the fact that it was an international visual effects studio that was working on this, I want to say it was what I don't think it was Weta, but it was somebody out there. It's just like when the Japanese just put out Godzilla -1 with their special effects. Like there's talent internationally that can do these things on a budget, and clearly there's a lot of excellent work, great ship designs, realized space battles and space flights and wormholes and all sorts of wild special effects that will just you'll look at it and be like, that was in 99, god damn, that's good. And it's too bad it
Yeah.
can't be like up-resed or they can't go back and like redo the graphics a little bit, because I think it would make the show look even
No.
better, but the film elements are like gone. And whenever we get a new
Oh.
Blu-ray set, somebody's always asking, is the picture quality better? Is the picture quality better? No, it's the same masters that have been out for the last 15 years. There is no way to improve what's already there. The only thing that they can work on is like audio peaks and glitches and anything like that, and just give it a new encode. That's all they can really do as far as like transfers to like streaming or even Blu-rays. The most you can extra get beside that is like just getting new interviews these days. But I would love if they could go back and spruce up those special effects, because I think they look even more amazing now.
Sure. I mean, shit, they did that with the original Voyage of Star Trek. They've done awesome special effects on those Blu-rays. Not like George Lucas updating Star Wars. Like, they actually made the planets look cooler, the ships move smoother. They did a really good job on those. But with this, what I did is I watched it on Peacock.
Oh, okay.
And the streaming was just fine. But I watched it on my phone because the rest of my family's a pain in the ass. And my kids have their tablets out. My wife has her tablet out. And the kids are usually playing video games. So I was sitting at the table and I'm watching it on my phone while taking notes and playing Magic. And it was fine. It looked fantastic. No complaints whatsoever. Last night was like a miracle. My kids went to bed. My wife went to bed. And I'm like,
oh, TV's free.
Yeah. I could watch episode 10 with the volume up too. And so, yeah, I watched it on the TV. And at first I'm like, oh man, is my internet getting all shitty? Nope. I'm just not watching it on the phone. Yeah. Watching it on the 70-inch versus the 4-inch was, it spreads it out. Looks like a normal TV show. It's like, oh, okay. It's still shitty. Yeah. But yeah, man, TV by myself last night, like no interruptions. It was awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's a perk, especially when you got a family.
The last time that happened, I was at a haunted hotel.
And there was no family around.
And there was no one there.
And no ghosts either.
Yeah, that was the shitty part. Anyway, that's going to be a 0 point. This, one of the things that they did keep similar, and I guess I was okay with it, is Dargo is very much a clone of Worf.
To start.
But not... Yeah, okay. Well, if he gets different, that's great.
Yeah.
But very much so.
You know what, Dargo? Sometimes you're a real pain in the ass.
He is your barbarian class in the D&D table.
Oh yeah, and he's got a great outfit, great look, and he's got a badass
Yeah.
qualta blade that can turn into a nice little rifle.
A plasma rifle. And he swings it well too. And the fact that they actually show the arm getting cut off of Pilot, I was like, oh shit.
Oh damn, we leveled up here.
Yeah, like, okay, amazing things you could do on TV when it's puppets.
Oh yeah.
involved.
And for the most part, this show, when it wants to get a little bit violent, it'll get there when it wants to. But for the most part, this is something you could watch with if kids are interested. You could watch it up to a point, because there's going to be a lot of things they just don't even understand to begin with. You just got to watch out for the occasional, ooh, that episode might be a bit crazy. Especially the body horror episode.
The body horror?
The body horror. The
Oh.
DNA mad scientist. Because you were mentioning taking the arm off. So.
Golly. That he was marvelous looking. The face looked like
Yes,
a
it did.
devil, a very intelligent devil. The body looked the way a goat would walk standing upright. Torgo would be the best way I could possibly
There
think
you
of
go.
that. And it's basically circus performers walking on stilts
Yeah.
is really what it is.
At weird angles.
But yes, it looks like a goat. And he's got this S&M outfit on. That's the only way you could possibly describe that outfit. It's like he's got flesh hooks on the nipples, or it looks like it's the nipples, a cage rack going into his spine. And it's like this robotic suit, and it's so cool. And what he's able to do when he's getting his ass kicked is reprogram his brain to get pleasure out of pain. So when they're kicking his ass, he starts. You're like, well, okay.
He's having like a photogasm, like
He's like,
Stan
"Please."
with the solar flames.
Yeah, he's like, please twist harder. Like, let go.
Well, she lets go, and he's
Nasty.
like, "Ah, damn it, I couldn't finish." Ugh.
Pleasure doing business with you.
Right? But I mean, he was marvelous looking, and that wasn't CG. You saw him
Yep.
moving from head to toe, and it was beautiful, horrific. So, I mean, maybe my kids might like it.
Eventually.
I don't know. Eventually, yeah. Hunter wanted to sit and watch it. He made it like a minute, and not even Rigel interested him. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go play."
Okay.
All right, dude, have fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some kids will
That's
take
on
to
you.
it, some won't. But this is mostly going to be for like people probably around our age or a bit younger. So
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, my kids like some really messed up things,
RoboCop.
some adult things, but yeah, RoboCop, Willy's Wonderland, things like that. They vaguely know who Michael Myers is. Like, that's Dad's avatar on Peacock.
That's my avatar on Peacock.
Oh shit. But no, this is safe, and there's usually decent morals. If somebody does something bad or horrible, something bad and horrible happens in turn
Yep.
to them. And we keep talking about the arm being cut off of Pilot. That ends with Dargo not apologizing, but he makes up for it by playing him this basically like a slide guitar that he
Yep.
just made. And it was really pretty, and the scene was pretty. Like, both of the actors did a fantastic job there. The voice actor and the actual actor.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you who the voice actor is until the end of the season. So because you
End
wouldn't
of the
believe me if
season.
I told
Fair
you.
enough. Huh. All right then.
No looking it up.
Fine. I'm just glad this is not one of our video shows, so people cannot see me like, is he looking it up? He's checking it out. Isn't he?
No, ultimately it doesn't
Cheater!
matter because you won't really hear it anyway. So I could tell you. You want to know?
That's true. I want to know.
It's Captain Christ.
Really?
Yep, he voices Pilot.
That's cool.
Every once in a while, you might hear one little inflection that sounds a little bit like that, but it's not.
I like him. Like, I guess we haven't really talked too terribly much about Crace.
We can get into Crace.
Crace is he's a crazy kind of guy. I mean, not to use a terrible pun, but he's a crazy kind of guy. Totally blames John for his brother's death, even after John explains it was a total accident. I feel horrible. I'm sorry. That's great. I'm still gonna kill you.
Yep, it's called vengeance, bitch.
Kinda. And I felt bad because John really does feel bad. He really is trying to reach out, was trying to rationalize with Crace, saying, we need to work together to get through this. No, blind rage and vengeance was all in that man's eyes.
Oh, yeah. And he does not like to let up. He doesn't like to give up. And for a time, a lot of people felt like Crace was just kind of this two-dimensional character. All he was this peacekeeper guy. His brother's dead. He just wants to kill John. Ultimately, his character really evolves into something very unique and special to this show. So what you're seeing now is just basically the lead up to what ends up happening with him as a character. So I would tell you to just keep watching. By the end of this season entirely, you're going to be like, oh shit, don't make me start rooting for this guy.
I mean, I don't care one way or the other, but you start to see the layers or the foundations that he's a sympathetic character.
Yeah.
Like, he did not enlist to be a peacekeeper. He was given to the peacekeepers.
Thanks, Dad.
Told to take care of his brother.
Yeah.
Was not able to do that. Totally mentally abused, physically abused. And you're just kind of like, well, golly, I understand you now. I hate when they do that. But he's still too blind rage vengeance to give a shit. So you're like, okay, well, fuck him.
Yeah, pretty much.
But apparently, I guess that's not happening in the long run.
Nope, you'll see. And,
right,
and you think he's the craziest thing you're going to see in this show. Boy, do I got news for you.
I try to save a life a day. Usually it's my own.
This show already showed us some pretty crazy things. None of it's unenjoyable, but some pretty crazy things. Like, I don't know what was happening when John was supposed to be getting head from the Malta chick.
Oh, yeah, the Scorpion spy.
She just started making this weird noise. Yeah. She just started making a weird insectoid-like noise, and you're kind of like, ugh.
That's kind of a turn off. Sorry, lady.
She gives me a woody.
Is it like millipede mouth in there? What's happening? I gotta go. I gotta go home.
Yep. Later, bitch.
She was great. I loved stuff like that. She reminded me of the gnarly whore from Firefly that Inara kicks her ass, I think.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. I liked the Malta character. I didn't like the Malta character necessarily, but I liked the episode. I liked the flashing back and forward in time because John got just close to one particle of antimatter.
We're sending you back to the future. Back to the future. Back to the future.
Back to the future.
Great Scott.
It was confusing, but so cool. Like, I thought
I could follow
like,
that one along pretty good.
Fair enough. Where I got lost was what zapped him. I thought like they zapped him with something on purpose, but no, it really was an accident that worked out in his favor.
Right. Yeah, it was part of that singularity that they were researching.
Yeah, and that was cool, especially because you got to actually see the singularity open up in one scene.
Yep, and total wreck shop at the end of the episode too.
That was dope. Oh, that was so cool.
Oh yeah,
like the ship just imploding upon itself. Like just one single tear rolled down my face. It's like, that was beautiful.
Yep.
Thank you. And again, for not having horror aspect to it, there is gore.
Oh yeah.
Not necessarily in blood, but you see it in like spit. There's a lot of spitting, a lot of vomit. I want to say John gets spit on like 2 or 3 times in the first 10 minutes of the show when he's first found on the Leviathan.
Yeah, Rigel, you gotta clear out those sinuses better, dude.
Rigel, Dargo fucking hit him, I think, with his tongue.
Yep. He got tongued.
He got tongued. It was gross, and I felt bad for John at the beginning of that. The poor bastard.
Yeah, Dargo's pretty. They use that very sparingly. They don't use that all that often. So whenever they do that, it's kind of a nice little. Oh yeah, that's right. He could do that.
He could do that. That's cool.
Yeah.
I thought it was really neat. I dug it. I really dug it, and I liked, like I said, that the special effects, the makeup was so good that everyone had a career going forward. Like if they were new starting here, these people had a meal ticket in this industry.
Oh yeah, especially the work on like Zan's makeup alone.
Oh, how long did it take to get that makeup on her? Like, it must have taken hours.
At least I would say at least an hour or two. I mean, of course, they weren't like painting the whole body except for the full body shots, but I know that ultimately ends up becoming a problem for the actress in halfway through the show. And so they start to try and figure out different ways to handle the makeup for her. Because imagine that paint on you all the time, and you got to be super careful, and what it even can do to your skin for long-term exposure to stuff like that.
I've seen Goldfinger. I know what happens.
Turn to gold.
No, shit. Who was it? It wasn't Pussy Galore. It was, I don't remember. They sprayed painted gold all over her skin, and there was no pores for her skin to breathe, and so it suffocated her. You're like, I don't know if that actually happens, but that's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, but no, that ultimately that. Yeah, she was under makeup at least a couple of hours to get that taken care of, I would think.
Yeah, and then
Dargo had prosthetics, so
that still takes hours and hours. Like Robert Englund, his prosthetics, and again, that was 30 years ago, would take 8 hours to get Freddy makeup on, and that was just hands and face.
Well, recently there was a story today about Stellan Skarsgård in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, talking about he was super happy to sit in a makeup chair for 2 to 3 hours to have a more practical effect looking thing than just being taped with green and just letting the visual effects take over. And it's like that is an old school way of thinking, and it always turns out for the better going that way. And I don't know, some actors and actresses just kind of got away from that, and they don't even entertain the thought. They're like, I'm not sitting in a makeup chair for 2 to 3 hours every morning and then 2 to 3 hours every night after we're done shooting just for what? No, you tape me up with green stuff and we'll go from there.
That's why Alec Cumming refused to come back to X-Men 3 as Nightcrawler. He didn't want to do the makeup again and did not want to do the wire work. And I don't blame him.
I think even Mystique felt that way. Renee,
Rebecca.
Oh, Renee. Yeah, Rebecca. Stamos.
Rebecca Romaine.
Rebecca Romaine Stamos, yes. Well, it's Rebecca Romaine now. Again.
Right. Sorry, Uncle Jesse. Sorry.
Yep. Makeup back then was kind of rough on everybody, so.
It was, and I think it still is. I'm very in awe of the actors for the work that they had to do in this makeup.
Oh yeah,
it's really well done. There's not fast edits. Everything's broadly shot, so it's like the stunt work is all very appreciated.
Oh yeah,
the special effects, again, all the driving for the most part, practical effect. Not a whole lot of hover shots where you're kind of like, that looks stupid. And I don't necessarily mean on Rigel. I mean like ships, crafts on land, anything.
Yeah.
But places that they land are very Terran-like, like Earth. Reminded me of, God, what episode? The Janestown episode, where everything was just like mud and mining and shit like that.
The man they called Jane.
Yeah.
Janestown.
They had a couple of... Yeah. They had planets kind of like that in this episode, and they were a lot of fun to see. It was even cooler than Janestown. And that last episode we watched, what was it? Until the blood turns clear.
Until the blood runs clear.
Yeah, the lady that kept smoking cigars and jerking them off
Furlough.
so she could fix Farscape. Yeah, she was great.
Oh yeah,
Very cool.
You will see her again.
Pleasure doing business with you.
Hey, Furla. 5 years from now, I'll be waiting for you at the end of that wormhole.
Oh, good. Because, I mean, it's John. We end with John giving her this cassette tape that is supposed to be all his data.
Yep.
And you're like, dude, that tape only holds like an hour of information. Like,
It's enough for somebody to get started on something, though.
That is true. That is true. And who knows if she actually has the know-how to do that. That is cool one way or the other.
Well, even Aaron pointed out that the video cassette or the audio cassette recorder was very primitive at times. So for this part of the galaxy, for something, if something like that is that primitive, Furlow would easily have access to being able to rip it and put it on real computer.
Fair enough. She was a kick in the pants. I really liked her. God, and there was somebody else that had just crazy eyes. I don't remember who it was. Might have been the episode with the cult planet, because they all had like super duper bright eyes.
Oh too. Yeah, where Dargo was doing hyper rage and then he turned all like monk.
Monk. Super lovey. Oh, you guys, everything's just great. Like he was on mushrooms or ecstasy.
That was the Thank God It's Friday episode.
Yeah. That episode got a little like, ooh, that's kind of a hot topic there. You find out that it's a cult planet, basically, that's using all these people as indentured servants, making their brains mush and then making them work to raise these plants for another culture or another race that comes and gets them. And the woman that's in charge of the planet, they picked out, and she's not under any influence. She's just doing this so she could be the leader.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, there was a bad name for that in Django. Like, I think you're Sam Jackson, lady. And she very much was. And then she made matters even worse, because not only was she screwing over her own race, then she wants to screw over the other race that's making them grow the crop, which turns out to be the fucking peacekeepers.
Yep.
And she wants to steal the crop and go sell it to somebody else. Doesn't know what it does, doesn't know what it's for, doesn't know what it's worth, but because it's worth something to them, it'll be worth something to somebody else. Oh, golly, I like her ambition, but that's just not the way that drugs work.
She tried to go all Samurai 7 up in here. She's like, I'm going to play all sides, or the Man with No Name trilogy. I'm going to do my own little thing, make a little money on the side, grow more power and authority. But I liked how that particular episode reminded everybody, like, peacekeepers have a wide reach. It's not just this little faction trying to go after Crichton. These guys are nearly everywhere, and they're up to some bad, very bad things.
Yeah, man, that crazy son of a bitch isn't even supposed to be there.
Yep.
Like, he kills his first mate, so because she knows that he's not supposed to be there.
Right.
She makes sure that nobody else knows, then he kills her. It's like, I applaud your strategy, but, you know, she probably could have helped you. Now, was that the lady that was in the TK Tech Girl or PK Tech Girl?
No, that was Jelena.
Oh, okay. Does she ever come back?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was like, oh, she's probably gonna get killed. She's gonna get killed, so fucking Aaron and fucking John could, you know.
You'll see.
That's usually how that thing sort of works,
yeah.
But whatever.
I hesitate to tell you, but you know, I'll tell you.
In the heat of the moment, I hesitate to use the pun, but like rubbing sticks together, she's gonna get a bit warm.
Jelena's a good character. I really liked her, and that's actually reminds me of something about the show, is that PK Tech Girl was technically the first episode that ever aired in America, but it wasn't March 19th, 1999. It was actually in February as part of the USA channel trying to promote it after Monday Night Raw. They did that in consecutive weeks with not only Farscape, but with First Wave. And I think they did it with Lex. I'm not positive, but I do remember the Farscape and First Waves. They aired those specifically. They didn't want to show the first episode. They didn't want to show episode 2. They took 2 random episodes and threw them up after Monday Night Raw just to sample everybody.
Studios are fucking weird.
That was
They
a wild
really
idea
are.
back then. It's like, wait, why are you doing that? You're doing it as a special promo piece, but really? Okay.
Yeah, but like when Clerks did that, or when ABC put Clerks on after the Super Bowl, dead, instantly dead.
Yeah.
Whatever show debuted after the Super Bowl this year that had it was Justin Hartley, I think, gone.
Oh, I wasn't even watching, so
anything that happens after a sporting event, gone.
Yeah.
And they usually start it, like you said, on the 2nd or 3rd or 5th fucking episode. So nobody knows what's happening. And I don't understand why they do that. Like, you throw it in the middle, no one gets it, so they don't come back to watch it, and you get rid of it. That's stupid.
Yeah, questionable marketing idea on that one.
That's David Zaslav kind of thinking.
Well, this might have been more like Bonnie Hammer back in this era. It's like that dingbat. Jesus Christ. Don't get me started on that nut job. She's part of the reason why Farscape got canceled. So,
And Tremors.
And a whole bunch of other great shows. So
Find a wormhole.
Yep.
Take her out.
We'll ship her off to the uncharted territories.
Uncharted territories.
Which I like that idea. Is like going off into like the nether regions where nobody likes to go and it's completely lawless, so things are going to be even crazier. So I appreciate that. I like that kind of a setup to a story and gives you another sense of adventure.
I love that the law is hired.
Yeah.
Like they're Pinkertons. They're Pinkertons. Like you could hire them to kidnap and usurp a throne, Rigel the 16th.
Yeah, Rigel.
Or you can kidnap them to torture and interrogate somebody for whatever political reason. You could hire them to kidnap somebody. So wait, what happened to Dargo? They framed him for his wife's murder and had the peacekeepers take him away and torture him. They were not actual justice at all.
No, they're motherfuckers.
Yeah. Pinkertons.
Hired mercenaries, basically.
Yeah. And kids at home, if you don't know who they are, play Red Dead Redemption.
You'll find out real quick.
Yeah. They're why cities suck.
Pretty much. And cities still stuck.
They're why we pay taxes.
No taxes. But if you're going to pay a tax, I bet Regel's taking a percentage of that.
Taking a percentage of that. I love that he's this usurped king.
Yep.
Who has sticky fingers. And I don't mean that because he's amphibious. I mean, he's got like 5-finger discount all over the place. He's wanting to fucking loot John's dead body, even though John's not dead more than once.
Always wanting to loot, always wanting to, negotiate deals, always hiding food cubes, always up with a plan until he can figure out his way home.
That was your plan?
Yeah, we're pretty good.
Oh, barely. That is the last time I go along with one of your plans.
Fine. Next time you get to make the plan.
Oh God, his strategy and his logic when they bring Malta and Varel onto the ship,
Yep.
or Varel, that Dargo's going to share the food with them, and so he's going to stuff down his share really fast so they can't get his share. And you're like, you're wasting it, you stupid asshole.
He doesn't think he's wasting it, though, Kevin.
It was so stupid.
Yeah,
I'm not letting him get my share.
Nope, just keep the food coming.
Oh God, it had me rolling.
That's one of the best parts about this show is they will continue to entertain and something you could grab onto. You could pick up on the sense of humor and just go with it.
This is the best thing I can compare this to is Guardians of the Galaxy.
I'd say Buck Rogers, the very first season of Buck Rogers.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Not so much second season because that season sucks.
The season sucks.
Well, they completely changed the show for Buck Rogers. And even back when this show first came out, it was being compared to Buck Rogers a little bit because Lost in Another Time or Thrown on the Other Side of Space, a human being thrust into a crazy situation. He just had to go and invent a way to possibly get thrown through a wormhole to the other side of the known universe.
Speaking of that, okay, so John's whole theory was using friction from the atmosphere to dip down and then boost back up, slingshot out of the atmosphere. Very similar to the way that Warp 9 works going around the sun. It'll send you back in time, apparently, in Star Trek.
Apparently.
Yeah, at least in part 4 it works. It takes you back to San Francisco to get whales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just got to go to the right aquarium for that one, that's all.
I just 0-pointed myself with Star Trek and George and Gracie. God damn it.
And I kept it going, too.
I blame you.
Well, there will be plenty of Star Trek references in this show.
Is there?
Oh, yeah. Buckle up, buddy.
The Star Wars references, those made me laugh.
Yeah.
The Yoda one, Dagobah, was like, oh, lordy.
Damn right.
It just fit. Oh, I remembered what I was going to say. Okay, so the whole thing was with Farscape dipping down and then bouncing up off of the atmosphere, basically. We kind of saw that today. There was a C-130 airplane, which is a very large military aircraft, about the size of, a 747?
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit bigger. Anyway, flying low enough to be under radar, very slow over my kids' school today. And like me and another dad that's a vet, we're just kind of staring at it. He's like, is that a C-130? I'm like, yes. Yes, it is.
That's something you don't see every day.
Yeah, flying under the radar. Like it reminded me of that scene in Outbreak, where they start dropping the bomb out the back of the fucking C-130.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, please don't be a parachute that's going to come sanitize the school. Please not now.
Wait till we leave first.
Yeah, I was like, maybe the zombie outbreak's happening up there, but it looked like it was landing or going to land in our airport, which is incredibly small. It's only made for Cessnas and mail planes.
Oh, sure.
And then you see it get close to the mountains and it's not making much noise. This thing had a very different engine on it. Not even was it making any echo off the mountains. And then it just kind of banked up super hard up off the mountain. And you're like, whoa. And I told Brandy, I'm like, that's what my show does. Like the ship did that. And she's like, that was a real military plane. I'm like, but it was like my show. That's more important.
Yeah.
Guess.
There's a point to this.
Right. It was scary as shit. Like it really was. And the guy I was with, he's like, if I see any parachutes, I'm going to get my gun. If you see any parachutes, you fucking lock your door.
Yeah, right. They were in Red Dawn.
Yeah. What was it? Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, where they, I don't want to say spoofed that, but basically took the plot.
I think so.
It was cool. You could fucking like set up, basically camp up on top of a Burger King and waste people jumping out of the plane. It's like, yeah. I have a savagery to me. I love my video games and violence.
Yep, and there's plenty of moments in this show where you feel like you're a little bit watching like a live action video game at times.
Yes, Matala. We mentioned her scorpion-like sounds. The fighting stance that she does looks like the 5-finger punch of death or whatever the fuck it was from Kill Bill.
Oh yeah. Now I will not unsee that.
Yeah, it was cool. It was so cheesy, but it was cool. Like you can't say it's stupid because the fucking Vulcan neck pinch is stupid.
Yeah,
it's all stupid. It's sci-fi. It's fun, and it was silly and campy. And the fact that she like kept killing people with it was amazing.
Over and over again.
She must have killed Dargo that way 4 times.
Yep, she was a bit of a freak.
A bit of a freak. And she was the spy.
Yep.
Wasn't she?
Yep.
That's right. Yeah, they get deep with the spy stuff and the politics on this show. I dig it.
Oh yeah, and that's something that stays with the show through and through each season. So not necessarily with like her or her trying to mimic being an Ilonic, but she's a Scorpion, and we don't, off the top of my head, I don't think we'd really see much about the Scorpions again for a while. But what you will see is something related to the Zelbinian ship from PK Tech Girl. You end up finding out who annihilated that ship. And it's like,
oh, good.
Oh, fuck. These people took them out? Oh, shit. This is not good.
The great big dreadnought, basically, of of their fleet.
They got their ass handed to them by somebody who's way more powerful.
Cool. It's not Pinkerton.
Well, I love the Zelbinian because I'm a big Dead Space fan, so it totally gave me vibes of like Dead Space.
Oh, cool.
I mean, Dead Space came out after, but like rewatching it, it's like every time I rewatch the show, I get like, this reminds me of Dead Space, but in live action form. This is my show.
They need to make a live action Dead Space.
Give it to John Carpenter. He said he wants to do it. I believe he'd actually do it.
Fuck yes, he would. But you couldn't have a movie like that be so short because there's so much to it and there's so much grotesqueness. And
he'd figure it out.
I need to stop. I'm going into the different mode. We're talking about sci-fi.
When it comes to space and science fiction, that's my jam. So I'm going to go off on tangents like that a lot. But one of the things I really like about the show, especially in the first 11 episodes, is not only we've talked about some great characters. We haven't really talked about Erin yet, though. And I think she's low-key one of the best parts of the show, period, throughout each of the seasons and all the way through to the very end. And I think Claudia Black is outstanding as an actress. Before this, she was in the movie Pitch Black. And I really feel like this show helped show what kind of an actress she could be, especially with her range. Because she plays the kind of character, strong female character that we all kind of grew up with like Ridley in Alien.
Yeah.
And I felt like she took that and ran with it and put it in the form of a TV show where she could do more than just kill aliens. She actually is developing into a very solid and very relatable character. And by the time you're finished with episode 11, she's gaining the respect and trust of everybody on this crew. And that's also a very big arc for this first half is these people weren't trusting each other, but by episode 11, they're starting to feel a little, okay, we are in this together. We can't keep being at odds with each other. And so we may not be friends, but we have to respect each other and we will have to rely on each other. And I think Erin is the big glue of that piece. And I think she's fantastic. What did you think of her?
She very much reminds me of Ripley, in all of the best ways.
Yes. That's why I brought it up.
Yeah. She would have been a great substitute in Resident Evil. Instead of Michelle Rodriguez. I really think she would have been a better character there, or a better actor to play that character.
Yeah.
But I really like her situation, being the outcast, like the true outcast. Everyone else has someplace to go back to. She does not. She doesn't have a home anymore.
She could come to Earth with 1 billion of us Crichtons.
Imagine, somewhere out there's a whole world full of Crichtons. How useless that must be.
Amazing he could actually provide us with some common ground.
Who would have thought there'd be a race more clumsy and pathetic than the Luxons?
Yeah, 1 billion of us inferior Crichtons. Which Kids at Home is supposed to be a play on Cretan.
Exactly.
Which is funny because he looks like an ass kicker. He's built like a brick shithouse. But he's a scientist, and he plays a scientist very well.
Yeah.
Like, you only see him get tough once. Just once, and he's bullshitting it. And it's so good. And that was in that last episode with the bounty hunters. And he was talking about establishing dominance.
Well, he also did that when he had the gauntlet on in a previous episode, because he had this false sense of superpower, superhuman strength, and he's trying to get Rigel back from the kidnapping.
Oh, that's right.
And he was bluffing because the damn thing ran out of juice. So he tends to put on the brave act like that, the strong man. He tends to turn that on when he needs to. He doesn't really get into that all that much in this first half, and then ultimately the first season, I would say.
Yeah, and he does it really well. He's a believable character.
Yeah, Ben is absolutely flawless in this role.
It's like you said, we are him. He is our eyes. And he's not dumb by any means. He's just awkward and out of place. And we feel that awkwardness.
Yes.
And I don't know where things are going to go with him and Aaron. That's usually the way TV shows like this work. I like Aaron as a leader. I like her coming around. The last we see of her, Crace gives her the option to turn everybody in and go retire peacefully, which means they're going to melt your brain and die. Sounds like a lovely proposal. But at this point, yeah, no. At this point, you're starting to see people where you said they're starting to trust one another. And what I noticed is where you start to see Zan and Aaron start to care about one another. Really, it's Aaron caring about Zan.
Right.
They don't know how to say it. She does not know how to voice affection, gratitude, or any kind of emotion.
That's their first time experiencing some of that.
Yeah, like the actual word compassion. She does not know what that word means. She's never heard it before.
Or empathy. I mean,
yeah,
multiple times she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Because she as well was taken from her family and grew up with the peacekeepers, and they instill such a crazy set of ethics in the peacekeepers that it's like, man, there's some sort of a human being in there, but most of them, it's basically educated right out of them.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, they still have romantic relationships and things, but it's not as romanticized as you would think it is. It's very clinical.
Ew.
I mean, they'll get into stories like that. So
there are some people that like to keep sheets between them when they make love. I understand that.
Except Dargo and Lolan,
who gets it down everywhere.
But if Rigel could be Jothi for a little while. Jothi, come here, boy.
That made me so sad. Like,
that story is like, oh, we finally got the big secret about Dargo's crime.
Yeah,
or lack thereof.
Yes, lack thereof.
Should have fucking killed everybody for that shit.
And Aaron and John know at this point that he had a wife, didn't he? Or aren't they?
No.
Was it just Aaron?
One of them had an inclination of it. This is the first time we heard like the straight up truth, because Dargo kept flirting with in the with Malta and on that cult planet. He was a pretty free deaky getting on over there too. So, but he didn't really let on like he had a family and what his real crime was. He just said he got nabbed for murder. So the superior, and you do end up finding out that the brother was a superior.
Well, yeah, the brother-in-law was a peacekeeper, right?
Yep,
that's right.
Bitch had it coming.
That's. Do we get to see him get killed?
I said
yay!
Or maybe I'm lying to you and he didn't get killed. Ooh.
Nah, your silence says it all.
No, that plays a role at some point later on. I mean, any of these stories you're catching on now are the beginning of something much larger.
Well, what I'm actually really enjoying so far and really looking forward to is most of the shows that we watch, like, we get this emotional attachment, even though we only have 1 or 2 seasons to watch.
Yeah.
We've got 4 at this point, or 3.5?
4, and then a mini series after.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's 88 plus hours of just great fun, and this is pretty action packed. It's kind of the way that the MCU used to be, Guardians used to be, where it's action and comedy all kind of mixed together, and the beauty of the practical effect puppetry. It's a trifecta of awesome.
I can't wait till we get to the Acme episode.
Acme?
Fans will know exactly what I'm talking about. But no, will ultimately we'll end up having to figure out how we want to cover the rest of the seasons. If we have some good numbers, maybe we can swing this around, or we'll see. Because if we're enjoying this, we can keep rolling with it. I don't mind.
I like to say I'll do anything twice, 3 times if I like it. So we're digging this. If you guys,
so that's how you got 3 kids. Gotcha.
Yeah, pretty much. After that, my wife's like, "We're cutting your balls off." I said, "Okay."
Mevox.
And then they did, and that was a horrible story. Anyway. We'll end with Kev's vasectomy.
Yep. Thank you everybody for tuning in. No. At least you're enjoying this show. I just wanted to at least hear what you were thinking about the show, and I could at least answer some questions or expound on things. Like, if it was just me talking, I'd just be gushing, "I love this show. I love this show. I love this show." I mean, clearly there's episodes that are better than others. There's characters that are better than others. But when you're just talking about the first 11 episodes, it's off to such a great start, and it's gelling really quick. Most of the shows that we've watched, it takes a little longer to get there. The last show we did, Human Target, that was good within 1 episode, and it stayed great until you got to the second season. But like, there's other shows like Freddy's Dead, War of the Worlds, where they start pretty interesting and they kind of fly off,
Oh, golly. With Freddy's Nightmares, I would have agreed with that 100% when I was a kid. But looking back on it again, that pilot episode, that really sucked compared to some of the other stuff that happened later.
Yeah, that was kind of the reverse. That was more, it started bad and got
really
better.
Yeah, like it was really cheesy, and it went against the story of what actually happened in Nightmare 1 through 3.
Right.
But otherwise, I mean, yeah, it was a whole other 0 point.
Yep, that's okay. Now,
wrong show, Kevin.
I know I have one more point to talk about before we wrap up, but did you have another or anything else you wanted to talk about during this first half?
I don't think so, other than the fact that I'm really appreciating, I know you said that the show takes a bit to find out its identity and whatnot, but you haven't seen any moments where characters are different. Like, let's see, try to see if he's selfish, see if he's an asshole. Maybe he's this, maybe he's that. Like, there's nothing out of character for any of these people so far.
Right.
They're all very consistent and fluid in their character.
Yeah.
Like, Zan never stops being a nympho.
You still got some revelations for a lot of these characters in this season. So I'm looking forward to seeing you go, "Oh, shit." A few more times.
God damn.
But, solid writing, great acting, great special effects. The only other thing I want to talk about is the amazing score that they got going on in this show. And the theme is pretty iconic. You play that. Hell, we got a little clip of that. We do that when I do our 6-pack challenge. So when you hear the bong and then the click click, that's our Farscape little nod that I like to throw in there from when we do those. So but the music is freaking outstanding. I have all the soundtracks. First season is really good, and I think that really helps balance the show out overall to be like one of the better science fiction shows that came out at that time and still keeps that identity strong today. People remember this one fondly. I remember it fondly. It sucks it got canceled. It sucks everything that went down, but this first season, this is like a great prologue to the overall story that kicks off and then carries through seasons 2 through 4. So the fact that you made it this far, Kevin, and you're still on board, I think you're really gonna like this show. And I'm not even joking. I think, honestly, you made it through this half and you're still digging it. You're really gonna like this show. And I know you're not a space sci-fi guy.
A puppet piece fire. Like that I can't turn away from that. I can't turn that down.
And man, the puppetry you're going to be seeing coming soon is like, it gets even better and better. Like they honestly improve on everything. And there's an addition coming soon to the show, and that's one of my favorite things about the show. So I'm excited to see what you think.
If it's who I think you're talking about, yes, that's why I initially wanted to watch the show when it first started.
You're goddamn right.
That's when I knew I had a kink thing.
I had a kink thing. Still do.
But thank you, and I'm glad that there's still more for us to go on to.
Yeah.
Again, we went through 11 episodes. They're a bit longer than usual. Most TV episodes are 42 minutes. This is about 50.
These are extended international episodes. That's why.
Oh,
so you're getting all of the entire episode instead of just the 45, 46 minutes they were on TV. So you're getting all of the extra scenes.
Oh, okay. So they cut vital shit out. God.
Welcome to America.
Well, that's one of the things where I was kind of like, well, this is like almost the entire hour. I'm like, is this BBC? What the hell?
I know, right? But no, these were standard length, but these are the international uncut versions. Not much is like uncut. It's just there's additional scenes here and there.
I like them one way or the other, and I'm glad these have it put back in. I know why TV studios do that. You have to have so much minutes dedicated to ad revenue, but
right.
I don't know. I love good stories. I love drawn out acting if it all works together and you're entertained the entire time. And you're just really not used to that with American TV because of all the breaks.
Exactly. And everything just comes together in a nice giant ball of awesome for this show.
Yeah, and the fact that it remains consistent to itself is just within the 11 episodes, it's a blessing.
Yep. I love the detail work, great writing. So, Kevin, I think we're going to say goodnight to everybody, and we're going to get ready for part 2. So, thank you everybody for tuning in. If you like what we got going here, please do send us in some comments. We'd like to hear your thoughts. We're going to be doing a social media blast in the next week or two for wrapping up season 1. We might actually have a guest join us. We will see. We're still kind of figuring that out. So thank you everybody for tuning in. See you all next time. Here at Suns and Shadows Podcast, we talk about your favorite classic and cult classic television shows. On 0 Point Reviews, we talk about those classic and cult classic movie reviews. And on our stream for Dead Wire Live, we talk about the newest in pop culture and science fiction, fantasy and horror, and so much more. Look no further, check us out now, where memories fight to survive.